I've been asked many times, why am I running for Washington County Attorney? Let me tell you about a few cases that I've handled. One of my earliest cases was a bar shooting. 2 people died that night. The drug dealer who was the intended victim and a band member, an innocent band member who was not. See, the band member was shot by an errant bullet straight through his heart, and he died right there on the bandstand. That night, he left behind a wife and a 2.5-year-old daughter. I took the case to trial. The jury came back with 2 verdicts of first-degree murder in 45 minutes. And yet another case, I don't recall the name of the defendant. I don't even recall the charge. What I do recall is that his attorney approached myself and the judge before the case began and said, you know, my client is very concerned that he might not get a fair trial because the only clothes that he had to wear apparently was a bright orange jail suit that was issued to him following his arrest. And I had a surprise for them. The next morning before trial commenced, I brought along 2 of my suits. The defendant happened to be about my size, and I gave them to him to wear during the course of the trial. After the trial was over, the defendant was convicted, and rightfully so. In my belief, he did what he was accused of doing. And the case concluded. My last example involves a case of a young mother and her 2 young boys. I believe their ages about 6 and 11. They had all just recently moved to the Twin Cities from Montana because the mother had just recently got a divorce and she wanted to start her life anew. When she arrived, the mother met a man and developed a relationship. Took the man into her family, took the man into her home, took the man into their lives. One afternoon, however, the man became enraged for some reason, grabbed her by her hair, and slammed her head into the wall again and again and again and again. To make matters worse, he did this right in front of her 2 young boys. They ran in a panic from the house and knocked on a neighbor's door. And the first thing they told the neighbor when the door opened was, "He's trying to kill our mom." Now you would think that after his arrest, the defendant would have learned a lesson, but he didn't. You see, it was around Christmas time, and the kids were at home several days later trying on a new pair of skates that they had just been given as a Christmas present. They were in the living room with their mother and a couple of guests when all of a sudden they realized that the man had broken into their home yet again. But this time, the man was armed with a knife. He threatened the family. One of the guests grabbed a baseball bat that belonged to one of the kids and struck the man in order to protect that family, and the man fled. The man was eventually caught, he was arrested again, he was tried, and he was convicted. As you can tell from my history, I come from a proud personal background of public service. And like the current Washington County Attorney, I spent years providing elected officials with the best legal advice that I can in attending to the citizens' affairs. And I worked in areas in which the interests of children are first and foremost. But as you can tell from the cases I recounted to you, I understand what justice means. I understand what fairness means. I understand, for instance, that when that band member was killed, he lost more than his life. His wife lost more than a husband. His daughter lost more than a father. What that defendant also did was kill the dreams and the hopes of a family in their future. And I also realize that a person, no matter who they are, should never, ever be convicted because of how they look, because of the way that they speak, because of where they come from, the color of their skin, and even the clothes they can afford to wear. And I understand the life-changing pain that crimes like domestic violence can cause in a family and cause victims, including young children, lifelong pain. Why do I want to be your next Washington County Attorney? Well, I'll tell you. Because I have the skill and experience in running a large public law office, including providing legal advice to policymakers who are making their most important decisions in governmental affairs. I have the experience of leading a law office comprised of dedicated men and women in their pursuit of justice who are willing to do whatever is necessary within the bounds of the law to protect the most vulnerable citizens in our community. I understand how very, very important it is in order for children to thrive and survive that they have the financial support to which they are entitled by law. I want to be your county attorney for 3 very simple reasons. I believe I have the proven integrity to do the job. I believe that I'm dedicated to fairness, and most of all, I am unabidedly committed to justice. Thank you very much.